This podcast is brought to you by the Emmy Award-winning creators of Rising Phoenix.
Supported by global partners, Adidas and Procter & Gamble, the proud makers of Oral-B, Pampers, and Gillette. Hello, my name is Matt Stutzman. I'm a four-time Paralympian and a silver medalist.
And I'm Michael Johnson, four-time Olympic champion.
Welcome to our podcast, Rising Phoenix, What Does It Take?
We'll introduce you to some of the world's greatest Paralympians.
Kind of like me.
Kind of like you. You'll hear about their life stories, what it takes to get this far, and their hopes for Paris 2024 and beyond.
So I know we're having an awesome time here in Paris, and I can already see all the banners for that warm-up event.
The warm-up event. That's what we call in the Olympics now? Okay.
I mean, you did ask.
That works. It's before the Paralympics, so that works.
I do know that you competed on home soil, right? So how does that feel compared to any of the other games you've been to?
Yeah, it's interesting because you would think that it's easier competing at home, but when you're used to competing, because you rarely compete in the Olympic Games at home, it just doesn't happen. So when it does, it's sort of unfamiliar. And you're used to the unfamiliar, and your whole routine. My whole routine was based on I'm always competing in another country. So, in fact, my coach and I decided, you know what, we're going to make this feel unfamiliar. We're going to pretend we're not at a home Olympics, and so that we could be familiar.
Did you pretend you were just at another games? What country were you pretending to be in?
We didn't go quite that far. We didn't take it all the way to name the actual country.
Well, you can actually compare notes with our guest today, Gaël Rivière.
That's good. It's good.
It's pretty
Rolling
good.
your R.
The way I rolled the R.
Yeah.
I practiced that for like an hour.
You got good at it.
He plays Sissyfoot, which is actually called, that's blind soccer or blind football in France. Gaël is also a silver medal winner at the 2012 London Games. He's also European Championship winner 2022. Gaël, welcome to Rising Phoenix. What does it take?
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
It's good to have you.
So I'm going to start everything off at the beginning, because when I first walked in and I met you, I noticed that you had a soccer ball.
Yeah.
That makes noise. And before we get started, I wanted to let you know that I was born without any arms. So one of my favorite sports was soccer. And no joke, I was playing right forward, and the ball came in a little high. I hit it off the chest, dropped it to the ground, shot and scored, and immediately got called for hands. And I'm like, I was like, I have no arms. How do I get called for hands in soccer? But apparently, he said it hit my shoulder, right? And that's not
hilarious.
Yeah, so I got my first goal ever taken away from me because of it.
Nous sommes des athlètes et nous avons rendez-vous avec l'histoire. Une vie d'ambition, d'effort, d'espoir, de rebond. Nous sommes prêts. Nous sommes des athlètes et nous allons jouer le match retour des Jeux.
Anyway, I wanted to share that with you. Gaël, you are one of the athletes picked to be part of the 100-day countdown for the Paralympics. What was the message that you were trying to get across?
We just want to use the Paralympic Games to change people's mind, it's very important for us. Of course, we as an athlete, my priority is to win.
Mm-hmm.
And of course is what we do on the pitch, but we know that by the Paralympic Games we can change the people's mind regarding the people with disability in the society. So I really want to use this event also to try to change the people's mind on disability, and to show them that it's not because you are disabled person that you could not reach high level in the sport but in other part of their life. I think by sport we can show the ability behind the disability.
Nous voulons vous faire crier, chanter, pleurer, vous rendre fiers comme jamais. Et pour cela,
I want to talk a little bit more about your involvement in this Paralympic Games and it being a home games. But first, I wanted to get an understanding of how you came to love football and how you got started in the sport.
Yeah, I was born blind in in a small island called Île de la Réunion Island close to Madagascar. But when the French national team won the World Cup in 1998, I think I was like all the French children. I just want to play football. I don't really care about my disability, about being blind. I just want to find a way to play with my neighbor, with my cousins, and to do that, we just find a solution. And it's a little bit crazy to think about that now, but we just put a plastic bag over the ball to have the ball with noise, and we play like this. And at that time, I think I played almost every day with a plastic bag on the ball, and probably I've industrial consumption of plastic bag. It's not really ecological, but anyway, it was another time. And yeah, I started to love football. When you are a child, you don't really care about the disability, and you just want to play. And it's crazy because the children could have a lot of imagination to make things apparently impossible possible. But the strange thing is that I talked about that with a Brazilian player, and it also said to me that he also used a plastic bag over the ball. And it's only 10 years later that I discovered that there was football for blind with a specific ball. I started to play blind football in the school for blind people, and currently I play football in Bondy. Bondy, c'est Seafood Club, which is the city where Mbappé started to play football. We created a club there. So I play a lot of time just with a plastic bag.
So when you were growing up playing football with the ball with the plastic bag on it, you also play with able-bodied kids, right?
Exactly.
And so they just adapted to the ball? Like, how did that work?
They just want me to be involved in the game. When I have the ball, they try to adapt the way they play. But sometimes when I was not too bad, when I was good, they started to to try to play like they will play with other people without disability. And I think it's with that I get some abilities that was very useful for me when I really start to play blind football in competition. Of course, I didn't expect to play blind football with a French national team.
He steps up right-footed, saved by the goalkeeper. It rebounds back for Nayes, tackled by his own man, Fangman. Coming towards the dying embers of this first period. Can Germany force this one back into the air and into the danger zone? The answer's no, and Rivière breaks over the halfway line now. The German defender's trying to retreat as he comes down the right side of the area, and he finds the near corner. The pendulum swings back in the French favour again, and that is such an anti.
So, Gaël, I see that you brought a few things with you. So, explain what you brought.
I brought blind football ball, and I also brought a mask, and that we use to play blind football.
The ball is this ball is a little bit smaller than the regular football, right?
Yeah, it's a ball closer to the ball used in a football inside.
So I'm gonna pass this to Michael. You guys can hear that. There you go. When I picked it up earlier, it was a lot heavier than I expected.
Yeah, it is.
It is heavy.
It is heavy. And what's inside of that?
On ball, we have a small iron little balls who move and make sound.
So I always call it a soccer ball. So what would you call it? Is it a football? Is that how you would say that?
I say football because we use the word football.
Sure,
in
okay.
French.
Because you use your foot.
Because you use your foot. That makes sense. So you got the ball that makes noise, so that's how you track it. And then also on the table is your superhero mask, as I like to call it. can you kind of explain to the audience what is it? Like, it's not just like, you go to Walmart and you buy, a sleep mask. This is a pretty cool thing.
And the mask is just to be sure that every player are in the same situation, to be sure that every player are totally blind. But personally, it doesn't make a lot of difference to have the mask or not, because of course I'm blind. But I guess for Michael it would be a little bit different, maybe.
It would be, yeah. It would be quite different. You mind if I put it on?
Yeah.
So, you definitely are a superhero now. Oh, here. There we go.
Oh, did you see that?
I
Did you see
did.
that?
Oh my goodness.
I'm not bad.
So
You're gonna take my place in the team. I think.
I don't know about that.
So I know I have one more question now, actually. So how do you know where the goal is?
Yeah. To know where the goal is, we have a member of the staff beyond the goal, beyond the goalkeeper, and the staff is called a guide, and it's like a coach for the offensive players, and it gives informations like you are on a 6 meter, or you are at 5 meters, etc. And when you feel when you have the feeling that you could score, you can shoot, but you use the information given by the guide beyond the goal to know where you have to shoot.
Wow.
And of course, your goalkeeper, the goalkeeper is not a visually impaired one. Your goalkeeper also gives to his defenders information about where the offensive player are. Around a blind football pitch, you have a lot of people shouting. And, it's like in ordinary football, you as a player, you only take into account maybe 10% of the information from your coaches. So
you're saying Michael could be a goalie?
Yeah.
Like he would. There you go.
I'm feeling the pressure already. I'm feeling the pressure already.
I think you're a better option than me.
It's a lot heavier than I thought it would be. Put it in front of Matt's face. It kind of looks like your head.
It kind of does, doesn't it?
It is a lot heavier than I thought it would be.
Yes, it is.
Gaël, I have a question. In blind football, do they head the ball at all? Like, do you use your head at any point in time, or is it mainly just stay on the ground?
I never seen someone score the goal by head. But it could happen, but it would be a mistake if it happened.
So, I mean, I want to understand like the difference between blind football and regular football.
Yeah.
So how would you describe it?
Maybe in few words, it's football, first of all. And the main message I will give every time: blind football is football. We have just made some adjustment to make it possible for blind people to play. And the first is the ball, like you could hear it makes noise. And the other adjustment is that we are only 4 players on the pitch, and the pitch is 20 meter and 40 meters, so it's smaller than the ordinary soccer. We have also another important adjustment is that we have behind the goal, we have a guide who give information to the offensive players to make them able to locate the goal, and he also gave information like you have 2 players to pass, you could shoot, etc., etc. The last main adaptation is that when you move on the pitch and you don't have the ball between your feet, you have to say "voy." I mean, I go in in Spanish.
It's voy.
It's voy, yeah.
Okay.
Voy. And you have to say this word like voy, voy, voy when you move to make the other people able to know where you are and to avoid, shock and to avoid injury.
Does your team say voy and then the other team say something else?
Every team around the world try to say voy.
Okay.
Sometimes.
So if everybody's saying the same word, then don't you sometimes maybe pass to the wrong team? Like, how do you know the difference between like your teammate and the opposing team?
In general, you are able to recognize the voice of your colleagues, of course, and we train a lot to be able to know every time where our colleagues are on the pitch. It's tactical training, to be in the good part of the pitch in every moment of a game. So we have to know where our colleagues are. Sometimes we make mistake, of course, and that happen in sports. But you recognize the voice, and you have to know where your colleagues are. So in general, you know when you hear a sound, if it's one of your colleagues or if it's one of the opponent.
I would wonder if like the ball skills handling may be even better because you're not relying on sight.
Yeah, of course we use a lot the sound. We use a lot the feeling we have between her feet and the ball. We use also something very strange called the sense of mass. We call that in French. I don't know what is a good translation, but that only means that when you arrive on the border, when you arrive in front of someone, you are able to hear, to know that he is here, even if it doesn't make sense, just because the echolocalization, that make some reverberation on the sound, and we make you in a situation to know that you have an obstacle in front of you. So we have a lot of other abilities that we use to be able to play, but I don't really think we hear better than non-blind people. I just think that we use the information we received. For sure, if you put the mask on your eyes, you will probably discover that you hear a lot of things. And of course you hear this thing every time, but you don't, your brain don't use the information you receive. But in her case, we use all the information we get because we are not able to see.
So basically, he just admitted he's a superhero. He's got a mask.
He's got the mask.
Yeah, yep. And he can sense things, which is amazing. Actually, that brings up another point. My first games was London, 2012, and one of the things that I got to do was be a part of track and field when the visually impaired did the long jump. And what was amazing to me, the respect of the audience. So in blind football, the rules are a little bit different, but how does that impact like how the crowd reacts, I guess?
It's more like in tennis, when the player played, the audience have to be quiet, of course, because you have to understand that on the pitch, on blind football, you have a lot of sound. You have the coaches, you have the ball, you have the players, and you have the guide behind the goal. So you have a lot of sounds, and it's very difficult. The most difficult is not to hear the sound, but is to use the good sound and to put the other sound out of your of your brain. To be able to take the good decision. So if the audience make noise like classic football, it will be very difficult for us to hear the ball and the other use the other sound. So the rule is simple: is you have to be quiet during the game, but you can applause, you can shout, when the game is stopped by the referee. Just, for example, after a goal, you can of course make noise.
France, a good pass, and maybe a shoot and goal! He scores the first French goal.
Silver medalists representing France. Gaël Rivière.
You won the silver medal in 2012. For many, the London Games really turned the dial up on how disabilities was viewed. And I'm just wondering if you think Paris can do the same in terms of, increasing the support for Paralympic athletes.
Yeah. To be honest, for me, London Paralympics were very important because I discovered that people could love a sport, could love the way we play, could share with us the emotion we have by playing blind football. Before that, I had the feeling that people don't really care about blind football. They just want to come to see because they are curiosity. They don't just want to see how disabled people can play, but they're not really involved in the intensity, in the game in general. And in London, it was absolutely different. People come to see Paralympic Games. The number of people was very high, but it's not only good thing. The other thing is that people came and they came to because they want to see high-level sport. They were very interested not by the disability, but by the results, by the technical skills, etc., etc. But they were just interested by sports. And for me, that makes a big difference. And I hope, and I'm pretty sure actually that we will be better than London in Paris. Not just because we want to beat him every time. No, to be honest, London is of course a reference for us. We want to make it like London, and I hope we will make it better.
So this is the first time my kids get to come watch the games, and I asked them what sport they wanted to go to, and my oldest is like, we have to see blind football. So you're going to have fans from us for sure. So you were actually on the board of the National Paralympic Committee of France. And what kind of things have you been doing to, I guess, prepare for these games?
The board of the French National Paralympic Committee is very, very large. We are involved in a lot of different questions. Of course, international question, because we have to take position on the vote on the IPC General Assembly, for example. And one of the more difficult topic we have to decide on was the question of Russian athletes. Sometimes they are not really, support the government position. So it's very difficult, for example, to take a balanced position on that. But we are also involved in the organization of Paralympic Games in Paris. Not really on the organization of the sport, of the competition, but for example, we create something called the Club France, which is a place where the people could come and meet the French athletes. And so we have to decide the place we want to put this club, the budget, etc. But it's very important to take the good decision to have a good event, a good experience, but also to save the the finance of the committee, and of course we have to also to take decision of the qualification criteria for French athletes, etc. So we have a lot of job to do, and it's very interesting for me to see. Of course, I'm an athlete, but it's very interesting for me to see how the thing work behind the pitch.
Gaël, many of our guests who've joined the podcast, they stepped away from training to join us. You stepped away from the office. So talk about how you balance being a lawyer and also a footballer for the French national team.
Yeah, I a footballer in French national team. So I do sport at high level, but we are not professional. So we don't receive any salary to train and to participate in games as a French athlete. So we have to get money, and to do that, I have a professional life. Of course, it's a challenge every day to combine my life in the law firm and my life on the pitch. But I'm very lucky because I do two things that I love. I do two things I'm very passionate by, but I'm good, and I have to focus every time. And lawyer is not a job. It's not only a job during the morning or the afternoon, but also during the night sometimes. So yeah, I could not do the two things in the same time at the beginning. But for the Paralympic Games, I in Paris, and I discussed with the law firm, and I say to them, okay, I wanted to be involved in Paralympic Games in Paris. It's very important for me. Maybe it's my last opportunity to take part to Paralympic Games. And I think because they know I work a lot in the law firm, agreed, and they just say, okay, you could have the partial time, and you could have the time you need to prepare. It's also good for them to make small communication around the fact that they have a lawyer involved in Paralympic Games Paris. Not too bad for them, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to wrap my head around all this because you're a lawyer, okay? You're a footballer. You're on the National Paralympic Committee. You're also the vice president of Handisport Federation. Like,
quite a list.
What makes you just want to be like, I'm just going to do all of this stuff? Like, let's just pile on as much as possible. And then you're also going to be awesome at all this stuff at the same exact time.
I often say that my main quality to do that is that I'm not parent. I don't have girlfriend right now. I have time. So yeah, but like I said before, I'm really passionate by everything I do, and I consider myself a lucky guy. I explained at the beginning, I was born blind, small island, and I didn't expect doing everything like I do now. So I see every day like something amazing happen to me, and sometimes I just say, yeah, it's really me. It's another people, because sometimes I just think that I maybe not have the enough quality to do that, but it happened, and I try to do my best every time.
Well, that's awesome.
You really have given me a really good insight, not only to what your sport is, but the superhero that you are, and all the stuff that you do. I feel like if I need a lawyer, I know who to call now. so that's good.
Gaël, as a disabled man living in the city, I wonder what your, you hope the legacy will be for the Paris Paralympics, not just from a Paralympic standpoint, but just, for disabled people, what this games will do for the city.
It's a difficult question. There are two ways to see the thing. The one way is to say that we will be not on the point we want to be, because, for example, the subway will be not fully accessible for people with disability, even if we made some progress on that, but will be difficult for people with disability to use the subway in Paris. And the other way to see is that we use the Paralympic Games to make big progresses on the accessibility of her city. So, because I'm an optimistic person, I prefer to see the progresses and hoping that we will continue in this way after the Paralympic Games, but for sure we're not arrived.
In 1996, I had the opportunity to compete in Atlanta, a home games for me, being an American. And I mean, it was, I think I speak for all of the athletes, American athletes in that games. It was just the most exciting, time for us, just to build up, knowing that, we're going to be able to compete in front of a home crowd. I wonder what your thinking is, how you're feeling about it as we come into this Paris Games. And I think the blind football is going to be competed in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower, which sounds like that's going to be amazing. So just give us your thoughts on, as we're getting closer to the Paralympic Games, how you're feeling about it being here at home.
Yeah, it's amazing, actually. First of all, to be involved in Paralympic Games is something amazing, actually. To have the opportunity to play in your home country is it's incredible. Not so much athletes have this kind of opportunity in their life. So it's of course incredible, but also it's a little bit stressful, of course, because in my situation, every time I'll talk about blind football, about Paralympic Games, I talk about it with my colleague, my friend, with my family, etc. And now they will come and we have to deliver. And so, yeah, it's a little bit stressful, but when you are an athlete, I think you could confirm it, but when you are an athlete, you live for this kind of moments. You want this kind of adrenaline, you want this kind of moment, and I hope I will have the opportunity to live it and to enjoy it, and of course to enjoy it, we have to be good in Paris, and that's the most important. I think maybe after the games, even if we lose, I will say it was amazing, etc. But right now, I just have one thing in my mind, is to win in Paris, and yeah, I think the thing will be really amazing if we are good.
So when you win your gold medal, are you going to celebrate by going to the top of the Eiffel Tower?
Yeah, about the stadium is something amazing. First, I will think that the good place for blind football will probably in the stadium soccer, like Parc des Princes, PSG played. But the Champ de Mars, close to the Eiffel Tower, is probably the best place we could have.
I too will be competing in Paris. This will be my 4th Paralympic Games. So,
okay.
We are actually within walking distance. Our sport is within walking distance of the Eiffel Tower. So it is on our list to come watch you. It's going to be awesome.
Gaël, we hope you enjoyed your home games, and we'll be cheering for you guys. Thanks so much for coming in to join our podcast. We better let you get back to work.
Thank you.
It's going to be awesome. Don't get too nervous, okay?
I try to. And good luck for Paris.
Yes, and thank you so much for being on.
Thanks so much.
You've been listening to Rising Phoenix, What Does It Take? A podcast brought to you by the creators of Emmy Award-winning Rising Phoenix.
Supported by global partners Adidas and Procter & Gamble, the proud makers of Oral-B, Pampers, and Gillette.
If you like what you listen to and want to know more about Rising Phoenix, check out the details in our show notes.
Remember to follow us on our podcast app so you don't miss any episodes. We have amazing people coming up.
This is a Persophonica production in partnership with Harder Than You Think.
I'm a rising phoenix.